Hello and welcome to the Cozy Painter. My name is Sky. June is Pride Month, so today I'm painting a miniature in participation with the Fabulous Marines event. Fabulous Marines is an organization that's dedicated to improving inclusivity and diversity in the miniature hobby, as well as acting as a fundraiser for the Trevor Project, the world's leading suicide prevention and resource for LGBTQ youth. You may have seen my project for last year's event, where I kit bashed and painted a miniature to look like the country singer Orville Peck. The concept for that model came together really easily, but this year I couldn't find anything that really excited me. I ruminated on the idea for a couple days until I saw a model that really made me smile and just screamed pride. The Orc Cowboy by Vivictus Miniatures is my choice for Fabulous Marines 2023. I'm aiming for a classic greenskin orc with this model, so I wanted his leather outfit to complement this, so the outfit should incorporate some warm red tones. I started by looking for inspiration, and I knew exactly where to go. Yu Yu Hakusho is a 90s anime that ran on Toonami in the early aughts. Aside from having likable characters and cool action sequences, the show has a masterfully understated sense of fashion from the era. This red leather jacket worn by the character Botan was exactly the look I wanted. I blocked in the base coats of the leather and skin and began working on the red tones. I find that rendering leather requires very narrow, sharp highlights to show off the slightly glossy finish. And highlighting red requires a careful ratio of the base color and highlights to still read as red and not pink or orange. This means that the majority of the surface will have to stay black with well-defined highlights that stay mostly red except at the sharpest points. The first go at the leather had too much brown in the black and too much orange in the red, so later I go back in and restore more of these respective base colors. I then started working on the skin tone. I started with a blue base so the deepest shadows would be a cooler hue than the warmer green highlights. With the initial green color, I go over the entirety of the skin while leaving the blue only in the deepest recesses. Next, I mixed in a brighter green and went over all of the skin while leaving a little bit of the darker green showing. This is the basic technique I use for building up the skin tones. Mixing in brighter and brighter highlights, painting over about 90% of the previous step to make a gradient. As the highlights get brighter, I thin the paint more and more, adding some stippling to make the blends better and add some subcutaneous imperfections. I highlight all the way up to pure Dorn Yellow. At this point, I'm pretty satisfied with the green, but it looks a little lifeless. I glaze a very thin red into areas where blood would be more visible, like his hands and the undersides of his muscles, as well as changing his lips to a more peachy color. This looks pretty good so far, so let's add some pride flair. Adding rainbow stripes to his undies just felt like the right thing to do. This band on his hat also gets a cute little rainbow gradient. At this point, I feel like the model has a pretty strong pride feeling, but I wanted to specifically call attention to the Fabulous Marines, so I decided to freehand the group logo on the back of his jacket. I outline the basic shapes in a neutral gray, then start blocking in the main colors. Painting this tiny pride flag on his shoulder was one of the smallest, most detailed bits of freehand I've ever done. I finished the design by adding the details on the helmet and the feather boa. This model's really shaping up. I quickly add some blue highlights into his hair and glaze black all over to blend it together. I previously attached the model to the base with epoxy resin for stability, so this guy's not coming off. I had to build the base around his feet, which limits my options a bit, so I went with a simple desert scene using some texture paint. Some quick and dirty dry brushing catches the raised details, and a few grass tufts set the scene. I'm really excited to work with Fabulous Marines for another year. It's awesome to see the inspiring works by all the great artists on display, and it's fulfilling to raise money for a good cause. I mentioned in last year's video how we as a community should strive to increase diversity and foster an inclusive atmosphere for marginalized groups in the hobby, and I think that's more important now than it was even last year. Powerful political entities are trying to suppress, demonize, and harm LGBTQ people to create culture wars for their own benefit. I believe as a society, it is our responsibility to protect the most vulnerable people in that society. As an individual, I can't do much to stop an authoritarian fascist in Florida from kneecapping decades of human rights progress. What I can do is try to make a trans person feel more welcome at their local hobby shop. I can paint a silly little model to make someone's YouTube algorithm a little friendlier. I can kick a few bucks over to an organization that's better equipped than I am to helping these marginalized groups. With that purpose in mind, I'm going to be putting this model up for auction on eBay. By the time this video goes up, the auction will be live and you'll be able to bid on it. I'll put the link in the description. 100% of the proceeds will be going towards the Trevor Project. The Fabulous Marines group has already raised over $10,000 this year, and with your help we can push that number even higher. I want to thank you for watching. I really hope you've enjoyed it. I've been Sky from The Cozy Painter, and until next time, stay cozy.